welcome to the next essential oil. Last time we looked at this one and it was black pepper. What we discovered here, or what we are building slowly with this essential oil architecture, is the building blocks of the essential oil architecture, is that we continued with monoterpene esters, but now had a more dynamic look, so sesquiterpenes. And the sesquiterpene in black pepper is mainly the beta-caryophyllene. So this is the one that we already mentioned. So I'm going to continue building these building blocks, and the next oil we are going to look at is this one. So as usual, I'm not going to tell you what it is, and you can start guessing. When you just take a look at it, you see that it has quite a simple structure again. So we're going step by step in building with new information so that you can see how just by looking at the colors, you can talk for an hour about an essential oil and not some fluff. You actually talk about an essential oil with credibility, with useful information, so that you can blend it, so that you can recommend it, so that you can use it safely. And today it's going to be more about safety, because this area here is phenols. So when we see this brown chunk here, it's kind of like a red alert. Be careful with this oil, whatever this oil is. Now this one has quite a chunk. So that's your first clue. Are you already guessing which oil this could be? Because it has 50% or more. This one has a little bit more of phenols. So we already have some oils in our head that could go into this group. So when you see phenol, and this is regardless of the phenol, it's because of the benzene rings, but I will not go into chemistry. I'm going to go into how to use it. So when you see phenols, you want to be attentive to how we are going to use this oil for skin, because usually you want to use it less than 1%, maybe even less than 0.5%, in some cases even less than that. So definitely want to know which phenol we're talking about. And this one is Eugenol. So Eugenol is interesting because it actually has two functional groups, phenol and ether, but we decided to keep it under phenols in Dropsmart, particularly for that reason, because it also acts it's rough on the skin. So you want to see that any oil that has, I would say, even more than 5% or even less, so like 3% or more of phenols, be careful how you use it. You do want to tell your client or whoever you're talking about, hey, this is an oil to look out for. And then this green part, I chose this particular oil because it's mainly beta-caryophyllene. So it's such an interesting combination of the two, because if you've been following in the last time we talked here, when we had beta-caryophyllene as well, what we concluded is that beta-caryophyllene is such a wonderful component for inflammatory process, and it actually helps heal the skin in that way. And here we have this interesting combination of beta-caryophyllene and eugenol. So it's kind of a yin-yang. I purposely chose this oil. So this is just a short intro. But what I want to teach you really with this series is how you can talk about oils without knowing what it is. So we still don't know the name or the last name or anything about this oil, if it's even written in the book or not. But let's say you are, somewhere to show your services or to sell your products. at this trade show and somebody comes up to you and says, look at this oil. What are you going to tell me? How to use it? What to do with it? I just, bought it from the neighbor next door. And then you can say, looking at this oil, I can already tell you the first thing is to look out how you're going to use it. It might not be the best oil to use for skin. Definitely not face, definitely not, some sensitive skin, baby skin, people with dermatitis. You probably want to avoid this oil because of this amount of phenol. If it is going to be on skin, it's probably going to be local and for a great antimicrobial action. So this might be something, for example, fungi on the feet. Although they are such more gentle oils to use, I wouldn't recommend it for that. But I would recommend this oil being such a powerful antimicrobial action, Eugenol and phenols in general, but Eugenol is so great for all sorts of antimicrobial things. You have lots and lots of research on this amazing component here that you can then go into details. But just off the top of my head, I would suggest to a person to use this to maybe for cleaning products, for cleaning the air. I would not also recommend this oil to be used in the air consistently and even every day. Even if it's just a little bit every day, I would not recommend this oil to be used consistently, because it's just so irritating as a group. So you might want to wipe your counter with it, but not every day. You might want to use it for example, you had an aromatherapy workshop, and after that you might want to diffuse the air to disinfect it, but not every day. You want to use it because you had a lot of people there, some were sniffly, and you want to do it that way. So I would recommend to use it. What is interesting is that this oil might not seem that aggressive because it has such a large amount of beta-caryophyllene. So this particular sesquiterpene, it might balance it out, so it might not act as such an intense sensitizer as some other oils that do not have this wonderful balance. For example, clove, right? It's not balanced as this one. So looking at beta-caryophyllene, and then with its amazing analgesic effect and anti-inflammatory effect, and then knowing that Eugenol is also great for pain. This also might be interesting for people who don't have sensitive skin and have very intense pain. I would suggest it for those. So for people who maybe have issues in the lower back, or, back is not such sensitive skin, I might use it locally for a massage, or just to put it on top, of course diluted very well, to help with a lot of pain issues. And then when you see and you use the smart calculator here, you'll see that adds up. Anti-inflammatory, great, anesthetic, for all sorts of pain issues, I would suggest it here, but very, very local. So not the entire back. You don't want to have like red back from it. And also here, I would suggest that if you're like a massage therapist using essential oils, you might want to use gloves for this one if you're going to put it on a larger area. So this would be what I would say about this oil for safe usage. Also, these are both interesting chemical constituents that are great repellents and for all sorts of different insects. So you can see specifically which mosquitoes and beetles here, for example, it repels. But that would be an option to use it as a repellent as well. So in general, I would stick to that and tell a client, somebody who is also asking for advice or whatever, that this particular oil, although I don't know which one it is, it's definitely limited to use. I would not use it maybe on children because they have more sensitive skin and they're just developing their sensory system in general. I wouldn't use it for people who are sensitive for smell as well, not just for skin. So look out for this one. Great for cleaning products, also not every day. And imagine and be careful not to get it on your skin as well. So this is what I wanted to introduce with phenols, to how it can help us to know about safety. So without knowing this particular oil, I have this alert system in my head telling me to be careful about that. Even though we have such a large quantity of an oil that is very gentle and actually good for the skin, still I would be careful. Now I will go a little bit into the smell because that's always fun, but next time we will continue and build on that. Regarding the smell, if you remember from last time, sesquiterpenes are bigger molecule and heavier molecules, so they go into lower middle note to low note, but they're low middle note, and the same goes for phenols. Phenols are tricky because they can have that intense smell, and people tend to misinterpret when we have an intense smell that it's a high note, but it's not. It takes longer to evaporate and some other things that we will slowly go into. So it is usually lower middle note again. So this oil definitely could serve as a lower note in essential oils because we do not have that many components that are the classical low note. So this would fall into that category, which tells me that this oil should be blended with at least one. So at least one that has the middle and the top note, such as bergamot, for example, has both. Or you want to blend it with two oils that then bring the other two notes so that the smell is harmonious. It's probably going to be a little sweet, so oils that have eugenol in them have this also kind of a sweet note. And phenols are very intense smell. You're going to recognize them because I think the nature is actually, this is my point of view, it's not backed up by any science, but I feel that nature is kind of telling you, watch out for this one. So you want to be able to smell it so that it kind of tells you, here it is, watch out, it's full of eugenol, don't put it on yourself. So smell-wise, this oil is a lower note, which is interesting because in aromatherapy, we don't have many of those. And that tells me I want to blend it from the smell perspective, from the perspective of it being very powerful analgesic or antimicrobial. It doesn't need blending. But from the perspective of having a balanced smell, I would recommend blending it. So do you see how many things I can talk about this oil without even using the smart calculator yet to recommend it? So it has eugenol and beta-caryophyllene. Or if you're not familiar and you're here to learn a little bit more about chemistry, think about it. Which oils do you know that are not so safe for skin use, that are great antimicrobials, that could be used for pain, all sorts of pain? So this one was not such a oil that everybody has in their cupboard, but I'm sure that everybody's heard of it. And it is, first of all, let's stop here so I can pause a little bit more. So do you see that we have scientific references that do tell us also that it's good for pain? So without knowing anything about it, I did guess that it's good for pain. And I did guess it's a good antimicrobial. So it does align. And we did guess the dermal level recommended, 1%. So this is quite high, actually, for such a powerful phenol. And I would guess that's because we have this interesting combination. Otherwise, perhaps it should be even lower. Now look at the practical benefits. So this is the thing that interests me the most. I think a lot of our information in books comes from how we used to use the plants, not so much essential oils. So if you look at the research, it adds up better than when we look at the practical benefits, because I wouldn't really recommend this for acne. Looking at the chemical constituents, I do not know if I want this on my face, where acne mainly, it could be on back or somewhere maybe, but I don't know. Colds, yes. Congestion, definitely for the antimicrobial, but it's such an intense, I don't know if I want to be inhaling it. Parasites, yes. Anxiety, and this is very interesting. I have noticed that oils with phenols often help with different mental states that are kind of foggy. It almost as it helps you get that boost of energy. But this is just my experience. No research there, but I have noticed these patterns with oils with phenols, that they kind of wake you up. A lot of times they're also aphrodisiacs. So let me show you. Are you ready? Here it is. Holy basil. Some people call it Tulsi. So holy basil. And I chose this oil purposely because I think the name is deceiving. When you think of Tulsi and holy basil, because of this holy component to it, people think that it's very gentle to use. People are misled by that. And also, I don't know if you've seen the plant. It looks so innocent. It doesn't look like it's gonna burn you. And part of the reasons I'm choosing oils is to give you a different perspective, and it gives me a longer time, attention span from you to rethink how to use this oil before you see the name of it. So if you knew the name, maybe you wouldn't hear the information as much. But now that you saw the data, you might rethink how to use this oil. So with this series, what I want to show is that I think in my experience with my students and some of my colleagues, a lot of our information, how we use essential oils, still comes from herbalism and other ways of using the same herb. And we often forget that what comes in the bottle is very different than the herb itself. It is distilled, and a lot of molecules don't come through in the distillation. So, so they're used very different. Holy basil tea has very different properties than the essential oil. So I hope this was maybe even mind-blowing, but definitely opened your eyes to a new perspective, and also how interesting this oil is. But it's not so innocent to use. So yeah, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. And that's it for this oil. Next time, we're going to go into a little bit more complexity. So I'm looking forward to that and seeing you there.